You're listening to the First Fight podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. On today's special episode, I talk with fight photographer Eric Coleman. Eric does amazing work, amazing portraits, and he's been around for a while. He has had the opportunity to travel all around the world, photographing fighters such as Joanna Jedrzejczyk, Edie Alvarez, Frankie Edgar, Paige VanZant. He does amazing portraits, and he formerly worked at Bellator and is now taking pictures for the PFL. We talk about his experience traveling with different fighters, his relationship with Edie Alvarez, and the industry overall and how he got started in it. So enjoy. So today, for a special episode, I have Eric Coleman, who is a photographer, but you specialize in fighting. And I'd love to hear about how you got into it.
So that's actually kind of like a funny story. Around the time that I got into it, I was actually working in sales at a car dealership. And we had a customer come in, and he actually owned a magazine. And we got to talking, and, we got to sort of expressing our passion for the sport and everything that was going on. And this was back in like 2007. So this was like, Chuck Liddell at his peak, that sort of era. And he sort of offered to let me interview some people, maybe do some articles. And, I jumped at it. So the first thing that I did was I got on the phone with Kim Couture, who was married to Randy at the time. And I did an interview with Kim, and that got featured in the magazine. Then I wrote an article on Kimbo Slice after his fight with Ray Mercer. And then I actually went out to Vegas, and I had a little point and shoot. I knew nothing about photography. And I thought you could actually go to like Best Buy and buy like a little point and shoot, and like that was going to be good enough for professional photography. And I actually went to Extreme Couture. I met a lot of the guys there, but I was taking a bunch of pictures on this little point and shoot. And that actually made it into the magazine as well. Long story short, I decided I wanted to start taking it seriously. So I went to the store. I maxed out a credit card, buying like, the least expensive professional camera I could get my hands on. And then I reached out to Frankie Edgar, and we did a 3-hour-long photo shoot. And that's basically what kicked it off. Once I had Frankie, I approached Eddie, and Eddie had me come down to Philadelphia. And then my third shoot was actually at Chuck Liddell's house in California, which was nuts. So I sort of I tell everybody I weaseled my way into MMA as a fan. And in some ways I sort of did. And I sort of faked it till I made it, and it was wild. I sort of had to try to keep a straight face about it and play the part, but I was completely out of my league in the beginning for sure. I didn't have a place there, but guys just kept taking chances on me and let me grow my portfolio.
Yeah. Well, they say it's who you know. That always
That's the thing about photography. It really is like it's not so much a meritocracy as it is about relationships.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I've learned in life. You do amazing work, so
thank you.
You're not faking it.
Thank you. I mean, it took a long time. I'm not gonna lie. It's and it took a long time and a lot of mentoring from guys much better than me. to really help me figure some stuff out. I was always a fan of not only the sport, but of photography itself. So I was always studying everybody's pictures. And it was one of those things where, you take a bunch of pictures, you're proud of them, then you want to put them on your website, but then you go and explore other people's websites. And then the first thing you want to do is take your computer and throw it in the garbage, like you just hate everything you do. And I think that's really one of the only ways that you can sort of grow is.
Well, that's an artist's mindset.
Yeah.
But I love your work. I love what you do. Fighting, to me, has so mumuch content for photography, but not everyone's good at it. I mean, I've definitely seen people that don't quite get it, like they just are missing the moments that I think it's subjective, but
sure. But there's some truth to that. What you're trying to do is sort of capture like a moment in time where you can sort of feel an emotion and connect an audience with what's going on in the mind of an athlete at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not that has anything to do with the fighter themselves, or the motion, or the form, or the lighting, or just the story of it. I mean, put it this way: Kamaru Usman was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and this really shocked the hell out of me. He actually mentioned that his favorite picture was one that I took of him training with Henry Hooft at a college in the rain while his daughter was in a stroller behind him. And I knew then it was a cool picture, but the industry hadn't really learned who Kamaru was at the time.
Mm-hmm. So
sometimes it takes a long time for the value of your work to sort of mature and to really, really, present its value, because he sort of opened my eyes to that. Like, he reopened my eyes to that picture. And I wish I would have paid more mind to that. I knew it was special at the time, but, who knew he would be where he is today,
Mm-hmm. I mean, pictures really do tell a story. I think that's why I really like your work, is because you are good at that. It's not just a person. The whole way you capture their personality and emotion and kind of build a story from a picture, I think you do a fantastic job with.
Am I turning red?
I'm serious. I'm not a photographer, but I love photography and I love fighting. So I enjoy your work that you've done with people. It's not just, actually, I like to use your pictures a lot. I'm
very honored by it.
If I interview one of them, because they're just really good.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. That really does mean a lot.
Yeah. You get the drama and everything usually in all your pictures. Now, was Bellator like the first promotion that you worked with?
So, I shot a couple small shows for like Ring of Combat. So my wife actually grew up on the same street. Like, she's childhood friends with Lou Neglia's niece. And okay. Lou Neglia is the head of Ring of Combat. So mm-hmm. Lou would actually let me in to shoot a couple shows, but nothing crazy. I was just cage side for a couple of friends. I did an event for other friends back in the day where they had it was a charity event with guests like Kimbo Slice, and Frankie was there, Jerry Springer was there, and Dante was the main event. Dante Rivera fought in the main event, and that was like sort of like the first like time that I would shop for like a promotion, and it was my friends running it. It was for the Jackson Police Department. But as far as like a major organization, Bellator 30. I shot Bellator 33 as a guest of Edie Alvarez's. So it was Eddie versus Roger Huerta. And by Bellator 35, I was the new photographer for Bellator. And I stayed their official photographer until Bellator 172. So I did like 140 something shows for them.
Wow.
Over 6 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Probably some of the best years of my life, to be honest with you. Made so many memories there. Yeah.
It's once you're in it too, it's such a small community, but it's
tiny.
Global, That's what I love about fighting, is that I always see these same people, like familiar faces everywhere we go. We could be like in Germany, we're like, oh, what's up, Dean Thomas? How are you? Last time I was with him was in like a basement in Milwaukee at Rufus Sport. It's like, I love it. That's the best part of it all.
That's one of my favorite things that I tell people about all the time, is that you get this global perspective on people, on life in general. Like there's not a lot of things that you can't even say that about your best friends, where I've been here with them, I've been there with them. I've literally been around the world with, Dan Murgliata and John McCarthy and half the Mohegan Commission. And, I was in Florence and Dublin with Gina Carano. It's just one of those things that's like, you'll look back on your life and you're like, that's really special. And you get to meet a lot of people from a lot of different places, and you get to sort of understand where they're coming from as human beings, I think it's a really beautiful thing to really learn who people are. And it's sort of one of the things that I stress to a lot of people all the time, is just travel, get out there, meet people from different places. You're going to see that, their perspectives on the very same things that you're talking about may be different, but you're going to love each other. You're always going to find common ground with people from all over the world. And, like there's even language barriers. There's been countless Brazilians that I've never even been able to have a conversation with in English, but every time we see each other, it's love.
Oh, for sure. That's the best. You don't have to speak the same language. Fighting is its own language. That's what I love about it. We have people from all over the world, and you learn about so many different cultures. Like Corey and I were watching the fights the other day. We were like, do you think anyone else we know would hear the name, like, I don't know, Ramazan, and know they're from Dagestan? Like, no one knows what that is even. And we can just look at someone and see their last name and know exactly what like region they're from.
Yeah. And Dagestan is not one of those places that you learn in the United States about growing up.
No.
Geographically, it's sort of like we're sort of blind to it. So, we've been fortunate. And Bellator actually was one of the first organizations to start bringing over a lot of the Dagestani fighters.
And you've trained yourself, which I think helps you, I don't know, relate better to your subjects, I would say.
I think the value in training as a photographer is probably just learning movement and learning what's coming up and what guys are setting things up for and what may happen next. And I think it's really important to sort of understand what's going on to time things better. When action's happening. There's not really any guessing. Especially with the ground stuff, a lot of the wrestling and jiu-jitsu, for some guys who maybe outside the industry that don't watch, they don't really understand what's going on. So, I've been next to guys like on the apron where they're taking pictures of when things are like literally there's nothing going on and they're speed shooting. I think it would be much more helpful, like, cause I'm sort of like a lazy shooter. Like I don't take a ton of pictures. Only because, like I said, I'm lazy. I don't want to actually go through a million pictures at the end of the night.
I don't think that's lazy. I think it's lazy the other way, to just hope you catch something.
It could be seen that way. It's just, for me, like I really don't. I think it's more efficient to sort of just pick your shots, and it's easier to go through 100 than it is to go through 1,000. And it helps if you know what you're shooting.
Are you consciously trying to tell a story, or are you more about getting like cool angles in your pictures?
So,
Perfect
like,
technique?
I don't know anything about technique. At the end of the night, I mean, what you're trying to do is when you put a gallery together, if you can't tell the story of a fight in 5 images, then you're probably, you might be shooting the wrong stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you should be able to sort of tell the story of a fight in just a few images. Nobody really I mean, especially nowadays, people don't want to watch or go through a gallery of 100 photos for one fight.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make each shot that you display valuable. You're not gonna show your B or C level work. You want all your home runs.
Yeah.
All the interesting moments. And for some fights that gets to be hard. Some fights are 5 seconds long. And sometimes you have a bad angle. Sometimes you have a referee in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets to be challenging. But if you can pan out as a photographer and sort of show the landscape of the arena or what's going on or reaction, you can just as well capture that that moment or the essence of that moment.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a great view.
I think a big reason why I like your work is I like the portraits that you shoot. Would you have, or is there a subject that is your favorite that you've shot?
No, but like I do prefer to shoot portraits more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I love having one-on-one time with athletes and whoever I'm shooting. I love that one-on-one time, and I not so secretly sort of revere like fashion photographers and a lot of celebrity like portraiture, a lot of like the rock star portraits,
Mm-hmm.
Things that you would see on the covers of everything from Vanity Fair to you name it, right? I think there's a lot of value for me personally, in getting to spend time with a particularly, let's say a fighter, and really trying to come up with something that shows that fighter's or athlete's character in some way, or brings out something about them, or just shows them in an interesting light. I like shooting fighters in suits, or interesting, because it's, you don't always want, you sort of sometimes want to be able to get on the outside of the fighter and show that that athlete is more than just a fighter. They're deeper than that. But yeah, I have a lot of fun shooting portraits, and a lot of the times I don't really have a lot to work with as far as time or like a setup, so we sort of have to just like figure out what's around and just use what you got in the time that you have. So, but it's always fun. It's never not been fun.
Well, that's why I do this. I like telling the story behind the fighters. And I think that's probably why I like your photography, is that it's not, I've seen a million fight pictures. We've seen them all
Sure.
in the cage or the ring, but you don't see them in like as a person a lot of the time, or I think the audience doesn't see them as a person a lot of the time. So
right.
That's why I like your portraits a lot. I especially like that shoot you did with Eddie. Probably more recently on the beach, or
oh yeah
like moody, dark kind of.
Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun doing that, and that's what's been great about, Eddie. I've known Eddie so long, and we've literally been all over the world together, and it was because of him that I got to see my parents in the Philippines when he fought at one in Manila. Wow. And and as far as fighters go, he's got a special place in my heart as a human being and as a friend.
He's amazing.
And he is, and he's never said no to anything I've ever asked him to do. And we did that right after he was training at Catones. He had his son Alistair with him, and we dragged him to I think it was Seaside Park in New Jersey, and spent maybe 20 minutes on the beach. I had a gallon of water as a prop just to have him, sort of like wet his body. And, the sun was overhead, which is not always the most flattering thing, but you can make it work,
Mm-hmm.
Shadows I love, like you said, drama. It's probably the only place in my life that I like drama is in my work. And, I love playing with shadows. And so I welcome harsh light, and, it just worked out perfectly that day. And like I said, Eddie's a champ. He's never, said no to anything. And if I didn't get something right, he's always willing to do it again. And, there's nothing that I hate about working with Edie Alvarez.
He's probably one of my favorite interviews. Super introspective, interesting person.
There's so much depth to him that I wish the world knew.
He's
from
totally
his...
not what you think he is.
Right.
I told him that too. The first thing I noticed was his writing, like the captions he did for his Instagram posts.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Corey were like, I think his wife writes that. And I talked, he's like, no, I wrote it. I'm like, oh my God, like he's a good writer. And like I said, super introspective.
Yeah. I mean, he's had the life for that introspection too. We were on a plane one time, and I told him, I mean, I'm probably not the first person to tell him this, but his life story should be a Netflix series. He's the real life Rocky Balboa.
Mm-hmm.
He's the real life Philadelphia fighting hero.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, I think his story is better. His love story is better. He's the consummate family man. There's nothing that oh my God, there's no one I've ever seen shut the world off when his family shows up at a fight week than Eddie. There's nothing when his family shows up, you can tell like he's only got room in his heart for them that week.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always inspired me and sort of surprised me in those ways.
Mm-hmm.
I spent time with him at Disney. I think like 2 Octobers ago, and with him and his family. Yeah, they're just amazing people. I can't say enough. I'm like fumbling over my words just because they're so incredible that it's hard to put into words. Like you really know them, and you really know Eddie and Jamie and the kids. Their kids are unbelievable.
They're such good kids.
Yeah.
Those are good parents. Corey's looked up to Eddie. Like Eddie's given him a lot of advice about the business and outside of it as well. And we spent some time with them a few weeks ago before the baby. No, right when the baby came. And it was a great time. He's an amazing person. And like I said, he's a champion in every aspect of his life. So it's pretty cool to know someone like that.
100%. Couldn't put it better.
Well, I guess I want to end it on what would you say is your favorite fight of all time? Can you pick one? And is there one that you were there for that you would say is your favorite?
That's rough. I mean, it's funny, the two fights, I could name two. The two fights that sort of gave me the most heebie-jeebies in person were both Edie Alvarez, Michael Chandler fights in Bellator. During both of those fights, I was breathing so heavily that I was actually fogging up the eyepiece on my camera, and I couldn't actually see what I was shooting. Because like even Michael Chandler, like I built like a long, steady relationship with him too, like, and those two were sort of like designed to fight each other. And, like it's crazy watching them just go at it like that. And the only thing you can hope for at the end of the day is that neither one of them, comes out hurt from it, and you don't want to see them lose. You don't want to see them, you don't want to see anybody in defeat or sad at the end. It's just, no, MMA is a brutal thing, and it's the high highs and it's the low lows that make it so great.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you still have a job to do, on everybody's part. So it was wild watching Michael Chandler fight for the title last night and get so close, But
yeah,
no.
I actually watching those highlights, I was like, I gotta watch that fight with Eddie and Chandler because Eddie's a freaking maniac. First of all,
have you seen it?
It's been a long time, and I don't think I saw it live like when it happened.
Which one?
It might have been before. Maybe I was really into MMA, but Eddie's a maniac. Like I feel like Eddie thrives best in that environment, like in a dogfight. Like it's like once he's hit, that's when he's like
he wakes up. It's crazy. It's crazy because you know what the thing is. It's like his fights make me the most emotional out of everybody because of those moments, and because you know
he's
everyone.
Never out. Like he's never done.
No, you can't count him out.
Done. Like
ever.
I remember funny story. He was fighting. He was supposed to fight Gaethje. Everyone knew that obviously that was going to be like a banger, and
that was a
Corey told me that Eddie was just told Mark Henry, like, you just stay home. He's like, I don't want you to come. Just sit in the front row because I'm not listening to anything you say. And Mark is so like opposite of Eddie, very cerebral, like doesn't want him getting touched. He wants him doing codes, and Eddie just kind of fights with his heart and throws caution to the wind. And I know Mark is just like dying on the inside.
Yeah, no, I actually caught a beautiful moment with Mark at an Eddie fight when Eddie fought in Manila. Obviously he won, but there was a moment there where he got sort of the legs kicked out from under him, and he was getting punched, and he ends up winning the fight, and then my camera had to roll over to Mark Henry as they were announcing the winner, and I caught Mark in tears, which actually sort of like made me start to tear up. And you just see the investment that a guy like Mark puts into these guys, because like a lot of guys want Mark to train them, but he doesn't. He's got 4 trillion things going on.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people understand that he still runs a full-time business, and he's got 72 fighters as it is. I don't know how the guy does it. I mean, that guy's
he's also a maniac.
I don't think he sleeps.
He's crazy, and I mean that in the best way possible. I always say there's a fine line between genius and crazy, and he straddles it. But he's a special person, that's for sure, with what he does. I've never seen someone do striking like that. It's like the Matrix. I always say, like, Duke, I watch Duke work. I know his work inside and out, I would say, and he's more like a trip. Like, listening to him, like, talk about striking's like a trip, and listening to Mark is like the Matrix. It's just, like, super structured, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, no, that's another thing, too. To have a whole new set of codes for every camp, for every fighter, for to make the codes meaningful, to make to embed them in the fights, just the investment and all. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine. Like I said, I'm maybe I'm too lazy to really comprehend the work that it takes to instill that into guys and to run a business on the side. I mean, it's not even on the side. That's his business, right?
Yeah,
his pizza place. Yeah. So, and he makes some of the greatest pizza in New Jersey, which is really saying something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The guy blows my mind. It's an honor to know him.
I always say him and like Ricardo need to have a reality show when they're on the road.
Oh my God, those two.
They're so different. It's just perfect.
Yeah, and I don't think Ricardo ages, actually. I think Ricardo looks younger now than he did when I met him like 15 years ago. That guy's unbelievable. I don't get it.
Yeah, that Brazilian, I don't know, laid back. I don't think he stresses. Maybe that's it.
I don't know, maybe that's my problem. I got a bunch of gray hairs popping up, but
Me too. I'm starting to get them actually. Oh my gosh. Well, Eric, thank you for coming on. I love
no, thank you so much. I'm honored.
perspective.
Just me. Anytime you want to do this, I'm here for it. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Thanks again to Eric Coleman for taking the time to be on my show and give us a little peek into what it's like being a fight photographer. You can check out Eric's amazing work at ericcolemanphoto.com, and you can also follow him on Instagram at Eric Coleman, and you'll love his work, I promise. It's amazing. So you can also follow us on Instagram at The First Fight and check out the website, firstfightpodcast.com. We'll have a new amazing episode next week.